Today I will, just as always, read the stories you guys sent to my email, and while doing that I will play Minecraft. Because we finished building the villager trading hall in the last video, we can finally start working on the villager breeder. Okay, let's start with the emails. The first email of today is called "The Man I Married Is Not Who I Thought He Was." My name is not important. What is important is that I have been married to my husband for 6 years, and 3 weeks ago I found something that I cannot stop thinking about. I am writing this because I have not told a single person in my life, and I genuinely do not know what to do. It started the way a lot of things start. I was not snooping. I want to make that clear, because I know how this sounds. We share a family laptop. He had been using it the night before, and when I opened the browser in the morning, his account was still logged in. A tab was still open. I went to close it without thinking, and then I stopped. It was a social media post. Old. From about 11 years ago, well before we met. He had shared something, publicly, that I can only describe as deeply racist. I'm not going to repeat what it said. What I will say is that it was not a joke, it was not ambiguous, and it was not something that could be misread. It was hateful, plain and simple. I sat at the kitchen table for probably 20 minutes without moving. My husband was upstairs getting ready for work. I could hear him moving around. The same man I have built a life with. The same man who held my hand at my mother's funeral. The same man I am planning to have children with. I closed the tab. I did not say anything when he came downstairs. I made coffee, he kissed me on the cheek, and he left. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then I've been doing what I think a lot of people do in situations like this. I've been going back and forth in my head constantly. I've looked at who he is now. I've thought about the way he treats people, the way he talks, the things he cares about. By every measure I have, he seems like a decent man. He has never said anything to me that felt like that post. Not once in 6 years. But here is what I keep landing on. That post did not come from nowhere. 11 years ago, he believed something dark enough to put it out into the world with his name attached to it. And I did not know. I married someone without knowing that about him. I have thought about bringing it up. I have practiced the conversation in my head probably 100 times. And every time I get to the part where I have to say the actual words, I freeze. Because I do not know what I am hoping he says. I do not know if there is an answer that fixes this. What I do know is that I cannot keep pretending I did not see it. All right. I want to be straightforward with you here because I think you deserve that. What you found is serious. You are not overreacting, and you are not being dramatic. A post like that, public, from an adult, is not a small thing. People do not accidentally stumble into that kind of language. He chose it. Now, the harder question. People change. That is real. 11 years is a long time, and it is possible that the man you married is genuinely different from the person who wrote that. It is possible he is embarrassed by it, that he has grown, that if you asked him about it today, he would not be able to defend it. But you do not actually know that yet. And that is the problem. You need to have this conversation. I know that is not easy to hear when you have been sitting with this alone for 3 weeks, but there is no version of this where you can move forward without talking to him about it. Not really. Because right now you are not living with the truth of who he is. You are living with a question. Bring it up. Not as an accusation, but as a conversation you need to have. Tell him what you found, tell him how it made you feel, and then listen. Really listen. His response is going to tell you a lot more than the post did, and whatever happens after that, you make your decision from there. You have the right to do that. Let's move to the next one. Next up, this email came in with the subject line, $5,000 and suddenly everyone wants a cut. I work at a restaurant. Have been for about 4 years. I am a server, and I work with a crew that I genuinely like. We have a core group of people who close together on weekends, and we have gotten pretty tight over the years. A few weeks ago, something happened that I have never seen before in all my time in the industry. A table came in on a Saturday night. Party of 8. They were celebrating something, I never found out exactly what, but the mood was good all night. They stayed for about 3 hours. Good table, easy orders, no complaints. At the end of the night, one of the guys from the group called me over separately before they left. He handed me an envelope. Inside was $5,000 in cash. I am not exaggerating. I stood at the side station and counted it twice because I did not believe it the first time. $5,000. He told me it was for the whole team, that the service was excellent and he wanted to make sure everyone who worked that night knew it. There were 4 of us on the floor that night. Me, 2 other servers, and our busser. We closed that table together. The 4 of us. I went and told the others immediately. We were all in shock. It was one of those moments where everyone is laughing and not really believing it. We agreed we would split it 4 ways. It felt right. We earned it together. Here is where it goes sideways. My manager found out the next morning. I am still not sure how. He called me before my next shift and told me that tips of that size need to be split across the entire staff, not just the people who work that night. He mentioned the kitchen, the hosts, the bartender, even staff members who were not there. I pushed back. I told him the guest specifically gave it to the table's crew, that it was not a standard tip left on a receipt. It was a cash gift, handed directly to me, for the people who served that table. He told me the restaurant has a tip pooling policy, and that this falls under it. I have not agreed to anything yet. I wanted to think it through first. On one hand, I understand tip pooling in theory. The kitchen works hard. The hosts seat people. It is a team. But this was not a pooled situation. This was a guest who watched 4 specific people take care of his group for 3 hours and decided to reward them directly. The people who were not there that night had nothing to do with it. My co-workers are frustrated. The busser especially, because he worked that table just as hard as the rest of us. We all feel like the right thing has already been decided and someone is trying to undo it. I do not know if I have any ground to stand on here legally. I do not even know if that matters. I just know it does not feel right. This one is genuinely frustrating to read, and I think you already know how I feel about it. That money was a gift, a deliberate, personal gift from a guest who specifically wanted to reward the people who took care of him that night. That is not the same as a tip left on a card that runs through the system. There is a meaningful difference there, and I think most reasonable people would see that. Now, I am not going to tell you to ignore your manager entirely, because your job matters, and that relationship matters. But I do think you have a real case to make here. The guest made his intention clear. He handed that envelope to you personally. That context should count for something. My advice would be to find out exactly what your tip pooling policy says in writing. A lot of those policies are designed around standard gratuities on receipts, not cash gifts of this nature. If the policy genuinely covers this situation, then you may be in a tighter spot. But if there is any ambiguity, use it. And if this goes badly, document everything. The date, the conversation with your manager, what was said. You deserve to protect yourself here. But honestly, the 4 of you earned that. The guest knew it. That should not be so easy to take away. On to the next email. This one is titled, "They raised me and now they want my money too." I just graduated high school. I am 18 years old, and I worked a part-time job for the last 2 years to save up money for after graduation. Not a lot of money by most standards, but to me it is everything. Around $4,000. I saved it carefully, skipping things I wanted, picking up extra shifts when I could. I had a plan for it. I was going to use it to take a gap year, travel a little, get my bearings before I start college in the fall. 3 days after my graduation party, my parents sat me down. They told me that the family's in a tough spot financially. They did not go into a lot of detail, just that there are some bills that need to be handled and they could use help. Then my mum looked at me and said that since I have the graduation money, and since they are the ones who raised me and gave me everything, it would be the right thing to do to contribute. She did not ask me directly. She sort of framed it like the decision was already made and she was just letting me know. My dad nodded along and said that family takes care of family. I did not say yes. I also did not say no. I just kind of sat there. Here is what I cannot stop thinking about. The graduation money is from 2 sources. Some of it, about $1,500, came as gifts from relatives at my party. Cards with cash inside, you know how it goes. But the other $2,500 is money I earned myself. Hours and hours of my own time, at a job I took specifically so I could have this fund. My parents did not contribute to it. They did not set it up. They did not help me save. That money came from me. I understand that they have supported me my whole life. I am not ungrateful for that. I know what it cost to raise a kid, and I know they did not have to do any of it. But I also feel like the framing of this conversation was not fair. They made it sound like I owe them this money, like the natural conclusion of being raised by someone is that you hand over your savings when they ask. I have not spoken to them about it since that conversation. I have been in my room mostly going back and forth. My older sister thinks I should just give them something, at least part of it to keep the peace. My best friend thinks I should not give them a single dollar and that the request was inappropriate. I genuinely do not know what the right thing to do is. I just know that this money was supposed to be the start of something for me, and now I feel guilty for even wanting to keep it. You should not feel guilty. I want to say that first. What you described is not a conversation. It is pressure dressed up as a conversation. The way your mum framed it, like the decision had already been made, like you owed them this because of how you were raised, that is not a fair way to bring something like this to an 18-year-old who just graduated. Parents do a lot for their kids. That is true. But raising a child is not a transaction. You did not sign a contract at birth agreeing to hand over your savings when called upon. That is not how this works. Now, here is the harder part. I do not know your family situation. I do not know how serious the financial trouble actually is. If your parents are genuinely struggling and this is a real crisis, that changes the emotional weight of the decision, even if it does not change the principle. You might decide freely that you want to help. That is your choice to make. But it has to be your choice, not something extracted from you through guilt. If you decide to contribute something, do it because you want to, and set a clear boundary on how much. If you decide not to, you're not a bad person. You earned that money. You had a plan for it. You're allowed to keep it. Talk to them again. Calmly and on your own terms this time. Ask them to explain the situation more clearly, and then decide from a place of information, not pressure. You're 18. This is your start. That matters. Let's keep going. The sender titled this email, "We keep asking ourselves the same question and never getting anywhere." My husband and I have been living outside the United States for almost 5 years now. We moved to Europe for his job, and at the time it felt like the right call. Adventure, new experience, something different. We were excited about it. I want to be honest. There have been genuinely good things about living here. The pace of life is slower in a way I came to appreciate. The food is better than I expected. We have made some friends, real ones, not just people you grab drinks with once and never see again. Our apartment is in a city I would have visited on vacation 10 times over if I had the chance back home. But we have been having the same conversation for about 8 months now, and we cannot seem to land anywhere. We have a daughter. She's 4 years old. When we moved here, she was barely walking. She has grown up in this city. She speaks a little of the local language already just from being around it. She does not really know anything else. The question we keep circling is whether we go back. My husband's contract ends in 7 months. His company has offered to extend it for another 2 years, or to bring him back stateside into a different role at a slight pay cut. Neither option is obviously better than the other, and that is the problem. If it were obvious, we would have decided already. Here is what pulls me toward going home. My parents are getting older. Not in a crisis way, not yet. But I am aware of time in a way I was not before I had a daughter. I want my daughter to know her grandparents. Really know them, not just see them on a screen twice a month and visit for 10 days in the summer. I want her to grow up with that. I also miss things I did not expect to miss. Certain foods, certain sounds, the way things work in a country where you understand every unwritten rule because you grew up with them. Here is what pulls me towards staying. My daughter is thriving here. She is happy. She has a little friend group at her nursery school. Uprooting her feels heavy, even at 4, even knowing she will adapt. And my husband is genuinely fulfilled by his work in a way I have not seen from him in a long time. That matters. The financial picture is real too. The cost of living back home in the city we want to return to has gone up significantly. Our savings are decent but not endless, and the pay cut on the return roll is not nothing. We're not unhappy. That is maybe the hardest part of this. If we were miserable, it would be simple. But we're not miserable. We are just uncertain. And the uncertainty has started to feel like its own kind of weight. I don't know what I am looking for here exactly. Maybe just someone to think out loud with. I appreciate you writing this one in because I think a lot of people in situations like yours never actually say any of this out loud. They just keep circling. Here's what I notice when I read your email. You're not really asking whether life is good here or good there. You're asking what you want your daughter's life to look like and what you want your own life to feel like over the next 10 years. That is a bigger question than the contract. The grandparent thing is real. I think you already know that. Time does not hold still while you're busy being uncertain, and the years your daughter is young are the years that build those relationships. That is not a guilt trip. It is just true. But I also think the version of you that is worried about uprooting your daughter is not wrong either. Kids are resilient, more resilient than we give them credit for, and 4 is young enough that she will land on her feet. But your hesitation comes from somewhere real. If I had to say something direct, I would say this. The fact that your husband is fulfilled in his work is important, but it cannot be the only weight on the scale. You mentioned missing things. Quietly, in a way that sounds like you have been politely setting it aside for a while. That is worth taking seriously too. Have the full conversation. Not the version where you both diplomatically list pros and cons. The one where you each say what you actually want. That is where the answer usually lives. Let's move on. This next one was sent in with the title, I just want to do my job without feeling watched. I have been at my current job for about 14 months. Office environment, open floor plan, the kind of place where everyone can more or less see everyone else. For the most part, it has been fine. I like the work, I get along with my team, and I have had no real issues since I started. Except one. There is a co-worker, I will call him Marcus, who sits about 2 rows over from me. We do not work closely together. Our roles barely overlap. We have maybe spoken directly 5 or 6 times total since I started. But Marcus stares at me. Constantly. I first noticed it a few months in and told myself I was probably imagining it. A lot of people let their eyes wander when they are thinking. Open floor plans are distracting. I gave it time. I am not imagining it. It happens multiple times a day. I will look up from my screen and he is already looking. I will come back from the kitchen and he tracks me across the room. Once I went to the bathroom, came back, and he turned his chair to watch me walk back to my desk. Not subtly, just turned and watched. It makes me deeply uncomfortable. My body goes tense the moment I enter the office in the morning because I know it is going to happen again. I have started timing my bathroom breaks to moments when he seems occupied. I angle my chair slightly so I cannot see him in my peripheral vision. I've genuinely changed the way I move through my own workplace because of this person. I have not said anything to him. I have not said anything to HR. My hesitation is that I cannot point to anything he has actually done. He has never approached me inappropriately. He has never said anything that could be called harassment. Technically, looking at someone is not a policy violation. I am aware of how thin this sounds on paper, but I want to be clear. This is not a glance. This is not someone making casual eye contact in the way co-workers do. It is consistent, it is prolonged, and it has been going on for months. The frequency has not decreased. If anything, it has increased. A friend of mine told me to just stare back until it gets weird. My sister told me to say something directly to him. My other friend told me to go to HR immediately and not wait. I do not know which of these is right. I do not know if any of them are right. I just know that I spend a meaningful part of every workday managing my anxiety around this, and that does not seem okay. It is not okay. What you are describing is a form of harassment, even if it does not fit the definition that most people picture when they hear that word. You should not have to restructure your entire workday around someone else's behaviour. That is not a small thing. The friend who told you to stare back. I understand the instinct there, but that is probably not the path I would take. It puts you in a reactive position, and it does not actually fix anything. Your sister's idea has some merit. A direct, calm, one-time statement can sometimes stop this kind of behaviour in its tracks, because some people genuinely do not realise how they're coming across. Something simple, said flatly, without drama. Something that makes clear you have noticed and you are naming it. That can work. But if you do not feel safe doing that, or if you simply do not want to, you do not have to. You're not obligated to confront someone making you uncomfortable before you're allowed to report it. My real advice is to start documenting. Write down the dates, the times, the specific behaviour you observed. Do that for a week or two. Then go to HR, not with a vague complaint, but with a written record. That changes the conversation significantly. You deserve to go to work and just work. That is the baseline. You're not asking for anything extra. On to the next one. This one carries the title, I have asked her more than once and nothing changes. I want to start by saying that I love my girlfriend. I'm putting that at the top because I do not want this email to read like I am building a case against her. I am not. I'm just trying to understand what is happening and figure out what to do next. We have been together for about 1.5 years. Things were good early on. We were both pretty clear about who we were, what we needed, what we were not comfortable with. That kind of openness was actually one of the things I liked most about the relationship in the beginning. Here is the issue. I have certain boundaries around my personal space and my alone time. This is not unusual for me. I have been this way my entire life. I am someone who genuinely needs time by myself to recharge, and when I do not get it, I become withdrawn and irritable. I communicated this to her early in the relationship and she said she understood. Over time, she has consistently pushed against this. It is not dramatic, she does not yell or make scenes. It is quieter than that, and in some ways that makes it harder to address. If I say I need an evening to myself, she will text repeatedly throughout it. Not emergencies, just conversation, just checking in, just sending things she found funny. It feels like the alone time is being slowly occupied even while I am technically alone. If I bring up plans I made without her, she goes quiet in a way that is hard to describe. Not angry, just withdrawn. And then later, usually the next day, she will make a comment that suggests she was hurt by it. Something small. Something that on its own sounds like nothing, but the accumulation of it has started to feel significant. I have talked to her about this. Not once, not twice. I have had this conversation with her at least 4 times over the past year. Each time she listens, she apologizes, she tells me she's going to work on it. And for a week or 2, things improve. Then it comes back. I do not want to be the person who ends a relationship over needing space. That sounds absurd to me, but I also feel like I have been clear, I have been patient, I have given her time to adjust, and the pattern keeps repeating. At some point, I have to ask myself whether the conversation is actually landing, or whether she hears me but does not change because on some level she does not believe my needs are as real as I say they are. I do not know what the next step looks like. I just know the current step is not working. The thing you said at the end of that email is the part I keep coming back to. Whether she hears you but does not change, because she does not fully believe your needs are real. That is a serious question, and I think you already sense the answer. 4 conversations over the course of a year, with temporary improvement each time and then a return to the same behaviour, that is a pattern. Not a rough patch. Not someone who is trying and stumbling. That is someone who has heard you, agreed with you in the moment, and then continued to prioritise their own comfort over your stated needs. That is worth naming clearly. Needing space and alone time is not a character flaw. It is not something you need to apologise for or soften or frame more carefully so she can accept it. You told her who you are at the start. She said she understood. That was the agreement. I think the next conversation needs to be different from the previous 4. Not a check-in, not a gentle revisit. A direct statement that this pattern has been going on for a year, that it has not changed despite multiple conversations, and that you need to know whether it actually can. Give her the space to answer that honestly. Because if the answer is no, or if the answer is another 2 weeks of improvement and then the same thing again, then you have the information you need to decide what comes next. You deserve to be with someone who takes your needs seriously, not just in the moment when you raise them, but consistently and over time. Let's keep going. This one is called, I am right there and he will not let me in. My boyfriend and I have been together for 2 years. For most of that time, things were genuinely good. We were close. He is funny and caring and one of those people who makes you feel like the most important person in the room when he is paying attention to you. About 5 months ago, something shifted. It was gradual at first. He started sleeping more, cancelling plans, not just with me, but with his friends too. His sense of humour, which is usually the first thing you notice about him, went quiet. He stopped initiating conversations. He would sit next to me and be somewhere else entirely. I knew what I was looking at. I have been through my own difficult periods and I recognised the signs. I sat down with him about 2 months in and told him gently that I was worried about him, that I noticed things were different, and that I was there if he wanted to talk. He told me he was fine. I let go for a few more weeks and then came back to it. He told me he was just tired, that work had been stressful, that he did not want me to worry. I have tried different approaches since then. Direct conversation, leaving space and just being present without pushing, sending him articles about therapy, suggesting we do something small together when his energy seems lower, asking if there is anything specific I can do, asking if he has talked to anyone else about how he is feeling. Nothing opens the door. He is not unkind about it. He does not tell me to leave him alone or get frustrated with me for asking. He just deflects, quietly, consistently, gently, and then changes the subject or makes a small joke and moves on. I have started to feel helpless in a way that I do not know how to sit with, because I love him and I can see that he is struggling and I am right there and he will not let me close. I do not know if this is about me specifically, or whether he is like this with everyone. I do not know if pushing is the wrong approach, or if stepping back is the wrong approach. I just want to help him, and I do not know how to help someone who will not tell me what they need. First, I want you to hear this clearly. You're being a good partner. What you have done over these past months, showing up, trying different approaches, staying patient, not taking the deflection personally, that is genuinely hard and genuinely loving. Now, the harder part. You cannot reach someone who has decided, consciously or not, to keep you at a distance. That is not a failure on your part. Depression, and it does sound like what you are describing, does something specific to people. It convinces them that they are a burden, that opening up will cost them something, that the safest thing is to manage it alone and protect the people around them from it. Your boyfriend is probably not deflecting because he does not trust you. He is probably deflecting because he is trying to protect you, and also himself, from something that feels too large and too exposing to say out loud. That does not mean you stop trying, but it does mean you adjust what you're trying to do. Stop trying to get him to open up. Instead, just be there. Not with an agenda, not with a follow-up question waiting at the end. Just sit with him. Watch something. Go for a walk. Let him feel that you're not going anywhere, that your presence does not require him to perform okayness or produce an explanation. And then, once, very directly, not gently but directly, tell him that you are not asking him to explain everything, but that you need him to see a doctor or a therapist. Not as a suggestion, as something you need. You cannot carry this for him, but you can make it a little easier to take one step. This one came in titled, "We crossed a line and now I do not know where we stand." I have known my best friend since we were 15. We are both 23 now. 8 years of knowing someone is a long time. Long enough to have seen each other through failed exams and family problems and bad relationships and all the ordinary chaos that comes with growing up. We have always been close, the kind of close where you do not have to explain context, where the other person just already knows. About 4 months ago, something changed between us. It was not planned. I want to be honest about that. We were at his place, late. The kind of night where you have been talking for hours and the conversation gets quieter and slower and more honest than it usually does. I do not fully remember how it happened. I just remember that at some point the dynamic shifted and neither of us stopped it. We did not talk about it that night. We both went quiet afterward, and then I went home, and we texted like normal the next day. Neither of us mentioned it. That was 4 months ago. We still have not mentioned it. On the surface, everything looks the same. We still talk every day. We still hang out. We still have the same jokes and the same ease with each other that we have always had. But underneath that, at least for me, something is different. I am more aware of him now in a way I was not before. I notice things I did not used to notice. And there are moments, not constant but real, where I catch something in the way he looks at me and I think maybe it is not just me. But neither of us has said a word. I have thought about bringing it up probably 100 times, every time I talk myself out of it. The friendship is genuinely one of the most important things in my life. The thought of saying something and having it go badly, of losing the ease we have, of making things permanently strange, is enough to stop me every time. At the same time, I am aware that what I am doing right now is just waiting, hoping it resolves itself somehow, and I am not sure it will. I do not know if he feels the same way. I do not know if what happened meant anything to him, or whether he has filed it away as a strange night and moved on. I do not even know with certainty what I want the outcome to be. I just know that carrying this quietly is starting to cost me something. 8 years is a long time, and I understand why you are protecting it so carefully. That instinct makes complete sense. But here is what I want to point out. You said carrying this quietly is starting to cost you something. That is the sentence I keep coming back to. Because right now you are not actually preserving the friendship by staying quiet. You are preserving the surface of it. Underneath, things have already changed. You said so yourself. You're more aware of him, you're noticing things differently. There are moments that feel charged. That shift has already happened, whether you acknowledge it or not. The question is not whether to disturb things. Things are already disturbed. The question is whether you're going to keep pretending they are not. I know that conversation feels enormous, but it does not have to be. You do not have to deliver a speech or make a declaration. You just have to open a door and see if he walks through it. Something honest and low pressure. Something that gives him the chance to meet you there, if he wants to. And if he does not, if he laughs it off or gets quiet or makes clear he wants to leave it where it was, that is going to sting. But you will still have the truth, and you can make a real decision from there instead of spending another 4 months managing a silence that is already getting heavy. 8 years of friendship is strong enough to survive an honest conversation. I genuinely believe that. On to the next one. The sender of this one gave it the title, "My sister treats my home like a drop-off zone and I am running out of patience." I am 31 years old. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment. I work full-time in a job that is demanding enough that by the time I get home on most evenings, I'm genuinely depleted. I'm not complaining about my life. I have built something I am proud of, and my apartment is my space, the place I recover in, the place that is entirely mine. My sister is 34. She has 3 children. Her youngest is 3. Her middle child is 6, and her oldest just turned 9. I love my nieces and nephew. That is not the issue. I want to be clear about that before I say anything else. The issue is what has been happening for the past 7 months. My sister drops her children off at my apartment without asking. Not occasionally, not in emergencies, regularly, and with the kind of casual certainty that suggests she has decided this is a normal and acceptable arrangement that I have somehow agreed to. It started with one afternoon. She had an appointment, she called last minute. I said yes because it was one afternoon, and I like spending time with the kids. That was 7 months ago. Now it happens 3, sometimes 4 times a week. She texts me the morning of, usually something like, "Dropping them off at 4, is that okay?" But the way it is framed, the timing of it, the pattern that is built up around it, means the real answer she's expecting is yes. And for a long time I've been giving her that answer. Last Tuesday I had a particularly hard day at work. I came home, changed into comfortable clothes, and was 20 minutes into genuinely decompressing when my buzzer went off. She had not texted. She just showed up. All 3 kids, backpacks on, her barely stopping to say hello before she was back down the stairs. I fed them dinner. I helped with homework. I gave the youngest a bath because he had gotten into something at some point during the day. I got them settled and read to them until they fell asleep on my couch. My sister picked them up at 10:30 at night. I woke up the next morning exhausted and angry in a way I have not been able to shake. Here is what I have not said yet. My sister has a partner. He is present, he is employed, and as far as I can tell, there is no crisis happening in their household. This is not a situation where she is struggling alone, and I am the only support. She has help at home. She is just not using it when she can use me instead. I have not said anything to her directly. My mother has told me that my sister is going through a stressful period, and that family helps family. My brother thinks I am being too sensitive and that the kids love being with me. Both of those things may be true, and neither of them changes the fact that I did not agree to become a free childcare provider 4 nights a week. I do not know how to say that to her without it becoming a family incident. You're not being too sensitive. I want to be straightforward about that. What your sister is doing is taking advantage of your kindness and your availability, and the fact that it has gone on for 7 months without a real conversation means she has no reason to believe anything is wrong. From her side, this probably looks like a working arrangement. From your side, it is quietly draining your life. The comment from your mother about family helping family, I understand where that comes from. but it is being applied unfairly here. Helping family is something you choose to do. What your sister has built is an expectation, and those are different things. You need to have a direct conversation with her, not an apology, not a softened version with a lot of qualifications, a clear and honest one. Something that tells her this arrangement does not work for you the way it has been running, that you love her kids and want to be part of their lives, but that last-minute drop-offs multiple times a week are not something you can keep absorbing. She may be hurt, she may be surprised, which would itself be telling. Your mother may have something to say about it. That is uncomfortable, but it is temporary. What is not temporary is the slow erosion of your own space and time. If you keep saying yes when you mean no, you're allowed to have a life that is yours. That does not make you a bad sister. It makes you a person with limits, which is all any of us are. The last email of the day came in with a title that stopped me for a moment. This one is called, "What do you give someone who has never really given you anything?" My mother's birthday is in 3 weeks. I have known this date was coming for a while, and I've been putting off thinking about it because thinking about it means thinking about her, and that is complicated enough that I keep finding reasons to do something else instead. Let me try to explain. My mother is not a bad person. I do not think she is cruel or malicious, or someone who set out to fail me. I think she's someone who was not equipped for what motherhood asked of her, and spent most of my childhood at a distance from it. Not physically absent. She was there. She just was not really present in the ways that counted. She forgot things, not occasionally, consistently. School events, birthdays, things I had told her were important to me. There was a year in middle school where I had a part in a performance I had been rehearsing for 2 months. She said she would come. She did not come. She did not call. When I got home, she was watching television and asked how school was. As I got older, I stopped telling her things. Not out of anger exactly, more out of a quiet, self-protective adjustment. If I did not tell her what I needed, I could not be let down by her not providing it. We have a surface-level relationship now. We talk on the phone every couple of weeks. The conversations are pleasant and completely weightless. She asks about my job and I ask about her health, and we both say everything is fine. I have not told her anything real in years. She's turning 60 this year. My aunts have been texting our family group chat about making it special. My cousins are organising something. There is an expectation, unspoken but very clear, that I will participate and that I will bring or do something meaningful. And I am sitting here genuinely not knowing what to do. Part of me wants to do something nice, not for the relationship we have, but for the one I might have wanted. There is grief wrapped up in this that I do not always let myself look at directly. She is getting older. The window for things to be different is not closing, but it is not getting any larger either. Another part of me is exhausted by the performance of closeness. Buying a meaningful gift for someone who does not really know you and who you do not really know, because the occasion demands it. There is something hollow about that. I do not know what the right move is. I do not even know what I want out of this birthday. I just know that 3 weeks from now I'm going to be standing somewhere with my family and I have to figure out what to bring, and more than that, I have to figure out what I actually feel. I want to sit with this one for a moment before I say anything practical, because I think you deserve that. What you described in that email is a kind of grief that does not always get named. Not grief for someone you lost, but grief for something you never quite had. A mother who was there but not present. A version of a relationship that existed on the surface and not underneath it. That is real, and it is heavy. And the fact that you're still showing up to her birthday, still asking what to bring, still trying to figure out what you feel, says something about you that I think is worth acknowledging. Now, practically. The gift does not have to carry the weight of everything you just wrote. It can just be a gift, something thoughtful but not loaded, A nice candle, a book she might enjoy, something from a place she likes. You're not obligated to manufacture meaning that is not there yet. But here is what I actually want to say to you. The part of your email where you talked about the window not closing but not getting larger, that part stayed with me. If there is any version of you that wants something more with her, even a small amount more, her birthday is a low-stakes opening, not for a big conversation, not for decades of unresolved things, just for one slightly more real moment than the ones you usually have. A small question. Something genuine. See if she meets you there. She may not. She may stay right on the surface where she has always been comfortable. And if she does, you will have lost nothing. But if she does not, if something opens even slightly, that is worth knowing. You already carry this. You might as well see if there is anywhere left to put it down. And that is it for this video. Thank you for listening.